All righty. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining our physical well-being webinar series, presented by Affinity for Ukraine. Today's topic is part one, overall physical well-being, keeping nutrition, fitness, sleep, and mental health a priority. My name is Nicholas Vitaliano, and I'm the Wellbeing Communication Specialist here at Affinity. Today's presenter is Anthony Rusmano, founder of Mana Wellness and personal health coach for exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, and the link to watch the presentation again will all be shared with you in a follow-up email that will be sent out very soon. And if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to use the Q&A option on your panel, and we will be more than happy to address them at the end of the webinar. Uh, but uh, but before we start, just a brief disclaimer here. This information is for informational purposes only and is intended to provide general guidance and does not constitute medical advice. Each person's circumstances are different and may not apply to the specific information provided. You should seek the advice of a medical professional to discuss your specific needs before making any medical, dietary, or lifestyle commitments regarding the matters related to this webinar series. Affinity is not affiliated, nor do they endorse or recommend any of the referenced apps, websites, or companies and/or their products or services. Accordingly, Affinity takes no responsibility for the quality or reliability of these products or services offered by these apps, websites, or companies. Thank you, Andy, for being here, and take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. And I am so happy to be back. It felt too long from doing the 6 series webinar, and I cannot wait to jump into this new 4 series that we're going to be doing. I'm very excited because we will not be doing the same topics. We're actually going to be diving a little bit deeper, getting a little bit specific. So if you have not seen any of the 6-part series, I highly recommend going back, checking those out. We jump into all aspects of health, and now we're going to take another approach, which I'm very excited about. So I appreciate everyone joining. Quick little background on me. My name is Anthony. I started my own health and wellness company called Mono Wellness. I like to refer to us as a complete coaching platform. So we actually just launched the Mono Wellness app that is great for, number one, if you're looking to get a coach, you can actually go into our platform, find the coach in whatever niche you're looking for, whether that's weight management, sports performance, you name it, and get one-on-one coaching, or you can just get full access to our app as well. So that has been a dream and a very fun journey for me, and I'm very happy to now share some of my education and my experience in the wellness space with you all. So what we're going to be focusing on today is part one. That's going to be the overall physical well-being. So we're going to be touching on all aspects of health: nutrition, fitness, sleep, mental health, why we should prioritize them, the importance of these. Then part two, three, and four is where part two and three is where we're going to get into specifics to physical rehabilitation for any age. I'm very, very excited about that one. And then part three, I am mostly excited for is longevity and health span and lifespan. That is going to be a lot of fun for me to talk about. And then following up with an open conversation. Those are always great to just open the floor for any questions after, especially after those first 3 parts. So we will jump into part one today. Biggest thing about today's webinar is that, look, we are trying to bring in 4 aspects of health that are very, very important. Going back to what we did for the 6 series webinars, we actually did one of these 4 aspects in each webinar, and that just shows how much information and how important they are. So my goal to bring all of these into one webinar is to really show you the importance and what you should be focusing on, give you a little action item so that you can leave today's webinar having an idea of how you can create a healthier and better physical well-being for not only yourself, but also the people around you. As always, I am always open for questions. You can put them in the chat. We're gonna leave time open at the end for a little Q&A, but I can definitely answer some questions in between as well. So jumping right into part one, the best way I like to explain the overall well-being, overall physical well-being, is using this analogy of building the house of well-being, right? Treating our well-being like a house, because I think a lot of us are going to be able to relate to this. So again, my goal for today's webinar is to teach you about the multiple aspects of well-being. I'm gonna really have you understand the importance of each one. And then for each one as well, I want to provide action items so that you can either write down, take a picture of, and leave today's webinar and be able to do something about it. So with this analogy, I like using this house to explain how we should be focusing on and what we should be doing to build a house of well-being, to build our post personal physical well-being. It's going to answer the question of what does it mean to be healthy? And all of this starts with what a house starts with is the foundation. The foundation of your physical well being is the only way that we can start and build the house of well being. All right, so we're going to talk about the foundation, which I also like to call RY. And this is very important because, again, just like a house, without a solid foundation, we cannot function. We cannot do what our body is capable of doing without building the pillars. Okay, and the pillars, just like in a house, the support system, the pillars in well-being are the core behaviors that support our physical and mental health, right? We need our health in order to function, and we need optimal health in order to function. All right, and what really is part of my passion, but also my struggle today, is that the foundation of houses today are unfortunately not where we want them. Cynthia, I will get to your question in 1 second. Unfortunately, today houses aren't built very well. The physical well-being is not in a good spot, where only 1 in 5 U.S. adults are maintaining at least four key healthy behaviors. And that is really scary to me. And that's something that is very passionate for me to really change that around. And it starts with educating and laying down that importance like we're doing today. So Cynthia, please unmute your mic or chat your question. Not sure if you can with.
Yeah, I just sent everyone a message. If they would like to have any
Okay.
questions, just throw that in the Q&A option. We'll address all those.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, Cynthia, we'll make sure we get that answered for you. So this is my why, right? This is our why. This is the foundation. This is where we are going to be honing in on so that look, if we can help ourselves, that's amazing, and if we can help other people, that's even better. All right, so what is the blueprint of this house? How can we actually build this house of well-being? There is four pillars to the house of well-being, right? And this is going to lead to a healthier and stronger you. The four pillars that we are going to be going through are nutrition, movement, sleep, and mental health. All right, these are the four pillars that not only when it comes to all the aspects of health, but four things that we really need to be focusing on to build that strong, sustainable wellness foundation. All right, so for each pillar, what we're going to do is we're going to break them down. I'm going to give you a really good way to think about why it's important to focus on this aspect, but then also, like I said, action items. I want to tell you the tools for you to be able to build the pillar, build the foundation, and start building that house. All right, so pillar number one that we're going to go through is nutrition. All right, so first and foremost, the importance of nutrition. Well, food is medicine. Food is directly going to have a impact on your energy, your focus, your immune system, your mood, your long-term health, to name a few. Okay? Food and nutrition is way more than weight loss. It's way more than your physique. It's way more than how it makes you look. It's how it makes you feel. One of my favorite quotes when it comes to nutrition is every bite you take is either feeding disease or fighting it. And that's a perfect representation of how food is medicine. But unfortunately, right now, the way our culture and our society looks at food is more from that physique and weight loss side of things. So my goal is for you to change your perspective on nutrition. Treat it like you would treat gas to a car, right? It's the fuel, it's what keeps it moving, what keeps it alive, what we need, what's necessary. Okay, and now with that being said, the tools for building the house of your nutrition pillar. Okay, for each of these, let me just mention as well, we're going to have multiple things, and each of these are going to be a pretty long list. What I want you to do for all of these tools is write them down, take a screenshot, take a picture, however you can save it, and then just read through them, understand what you are doing and what you're not doing. Focus on what you are doing, be proud of that, and really hone in on that. But then start over time adding in some of the things that you may not be doing as well, right? And then that way, one at a time, you can have these small changes that are going to lead into awesome, awesome results. So for at least for your nutrition tools, first and foremost, we want to eat mostly real and whole foods, right? This is what this means is going to the last one, limiting processed foods, sugars, packaged snacks, all that kind of stuff. The main trick here actually is if you think about a grocery store, you really want to get, I would say, around 80% of your foods from the outside of the store, right? There's going to be your produce, your meats, your bakery items, any of those kind of things that are going to really keep your shopping cart healthy. Okay. Then, second, prioritize protein at every meal meats, eggs, yogurt. There's plant based proteins as well. So many different kind of protein options. But what you should be thinking about when you are making a meal, when you are putting your plate together, is what protein am I having? When you're thinking about a snack, that 2 p.m., 3 p.m. craving hits in, you just want something. Think about what protein source can you have? A protein bar, protein powder, maybe it's another protein snack. There's plenty of options out there. All right, and then third, fill your plate with fruits and veggies, right? Fruits and veggies is where the nutrients is going to come in, the micronutrients, your vitamins and your minerals. This is where you're going to increase your mood, increase your energy, your focus, your immune system, where all of those things are going to come into play. And then on your plate as well, include healthy fats. Fats do not make you fat. That is one of the biggest myths that I try to debunk every single time I get the opportunity to. Healthy fats, and let me emphasize that healthy fats like avocados, olive oil, nuts, seeds, these fats are going to improve your health. One of the biggest things with healthy fats is they improve hormone regulation, right? So when it comes to cholesterol, cholesterol is the backbone of our hormones. We need healthy fats in order to make healthy hormones. So include healthy fats into your plate as well. And then last but definitely not least, stay hydrated throughout the day. That means with water, and that means with consistent water intake, starting early and having it all throughout the day. So those are the tools for building our nutrition pillar. Next, we will be jumping into movement and exercise. So, movement and exercise, I like to differentiate these two because they are very different. When we're talking about movement, we're talking about how you are physically active throughout the entire day. When it comes to exercise, these are very specific, structured bouts of activity. So, keep that in mind, especially with that difference. But in general, when it comes to moving our body, again, just like nutrition, it's going to have a whole host of effects, boosting energy, lowering stress, reducing risk for chronic disease, helping maintain a healthy weight. There is, and not many things have a direct correlation when it comes to science and especially in health, but there is such a profounding direct correlation between sitting time and all-cause mortality. Quite literally, the more we move, the lower our risk is. And it's very direct. Another great quote by Dr. James Levine, he says that sitting is the new smoking. And that is how we really should view movement and exercise. I emphasize this all the time to my clients, and the people around me. If you can't get a workout in, a 20-minute workout in, a 30-minute workout in, that's all right. We are busy people, but you need to move your body. You need to use a standing desk. You need to go for walks. You just need to prevent sitting as much as you can. All right. So, getting into some of the tools, mentioned a few of them. Reduce daily sitting time. It doesn't mean getting as many steps as you can either. Perfect example is I'm one that I love using a standing desk. But if I look at my steps out at the end of the day, it doesn't reflect that. And that's okay though, because I am preventing my sitting time. So reduce daily sitting time, increase moving time. Number two, strength training. Strength training, I put at least 2 times a week here as the general recommendation, but strength training is going to significantly improve all of the aspects that we mentioned above, especially when it comes to bone mineral density and muscle mass. As we age, we lose both of these. We lose muscle mass and we lose bone mineral density, right? And bone mineral density, just to preface, that is the mass, that is the weight of our bones. When it comes to muscle mass, we can increase these as we age by doing strength training. So that is really good. So it's never too late. When it comes to bone, Bone, unfortunately, is really, really hard to increase as we age. And the goal here is to prevent the decline, right? By moving our body, by doing weight bearing activities like walking and running and strength training, you are going to be able to maintain that bone strength for a longer period of time and prevent chronic conditions like osteoporosis or even bone fractures and breaks later down the road as well. Third, at least 150 minutes of moderate to intense physical activity like biking, walking, running, weightlifting. So many different pickleball. I know is a big one. 150 minutes. Where did that come from? That's actually just the general recommendation. Across the board. And when it comes to moderate to intense, in terms of the intensity, don't get your head too fixated on that. You really just want to focus on 150 minutes of the exercise piece, right? We separate movement and exercise. This is the exercise piece. And then incorporating mobility or stretching into your movement as well. This is so important to stay nice and loose as we age. Again, I mentioned how we lose muscle mass and we lose bone. Well, also those muscles tighten as well, right? They're not going to be as elastic. They're not going to stretch as much as we might want them to. So making sure that we can put our joints and our ligaments and our muscles through its full range of motion through mobility and stretching is very, very important. And this could be very simple exercise. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes of doing this exercise and this one, this one. It could quite simply just throughout the day, you're doing different types of stretches. All right. So that is movement and exercise. Next, we are jumping into sleep, one of my favorite pillars of these four. Sleep, again, I cannot emphasize the importance of sleep enough. But when it comes to sleep, one thing that I want to get rid of in everyone's head is the whole idea of sleep when you're dead. This is horrible, horrible, horrible. And I hate the saying, but I also used to say it. Sleep is when our body and brain can fully repair, recharge, and reset. And this is so important because this is just one of the benefits of sleep, but such an important one. When we're tired and we're lethargic and our mood isn't there and our motivation is down and our brain isn't functioning the way we want it to, most cases it's going to be because of sleep deprivation. And what I mean by sleep deprivation is quite literally lack of sleep. And they have categorized sleep deprivation as less than 6 hours of sleep. Now, most of you are hearing that thinking, uh oh, because I was in the same position. On average, most Americans are on that line of sleep deprivation, and that's going to affect mood, energy, motivation, cognitive function, your ability to stick with an exercise or movement routine, your ability to eat healthy foods because your hormones are going to be out of whack. Sleep has a tight control on all of these things. Another one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite sleep doctors, Dr. Matthew Walker. He says that sleep is the Swiss Army knife of health. When sleep is deficient, there is sickness and disease. And when sleep is abundant, there is vitality and health. And this is so important. You can feel this on a night to night basis. The nights you get good sleep, you are just in such a better mood. You're happier. You're ready to attack the day, and vice versa. The days that you're deficient, you might be getting an illness, you are groggy, you're just not with it. That has a lot of long-term effects. All right, so pillar number three is sleep. Let's jump into the tools for sleep. Getting natural sunlight exposure, especially in the morning, is very, very important for sleep. Reason being, and this is going to sound weird because we're talking about the morning, but it's going to reset what's called your circadian rhythm, your body's internal clock. So just like the sun sets and the sun rises, well, our bodies wake up and get tired around that time as well for a reason. And that is because of the light exposure. So if we're getting natural sunlight exposure, we're basically telling our circadian rhythm, our body's clock, what time it is. In the morning, it's going to tell them, hey, it's the morning. Let's get up and let's get ready to attack the day. At night, it's going to tell your body, uh oh, sun's coming down. We need to start winding down so we can get a good night's rest. So, getting natural sunlight is very, very important. Stick to a consistent sleep and wake schedule. This is the regularity part of sleep. How regular your sleep schedule is so important because of the same circadian rhythm, that internal clock. By keeping a consistent sleep and wake schedule, you are allowing your clock to regulate instead of having it go to bed an hour later one night and then 2 hours before the next. It can't get in a good rhythm. By being consistent, it can get in a good rhythm. It's going to get tired when you are ready to go to bed. It's going to be energized when you need to be energized. And one of the biggest things that helps with is preventing that midday crash. Third, sleep in a cool, dark, and quiet environment. Set your environment so that you are getting a comfortable night's sleep. The reason you want to sleep in a cool environment is because in order for us to fall asleep, our body temperature actually has to drop a few degrees. We can do that on our own, but by sleeping in a cool environment, we can significantly reduce that time and therefore fall asleep quicker. Keeping it dark so there's no LED lights getting in your eyes and keeping you awake, and then quiet environment, of course, so that you can fully relax. Fourth, avoid screens 30 to 60 minutes before bed. This is to avoid one, especially blue light, but light and artificial light in general. Artificial light, just like we were talking about with the circadian rhythm, is going to dysregulate your body's internal clock. So, what's going to happen is if you are on the screens at the end of the night, that's light going into your eyes, and our bodies do not differentiate between artificial light and natural light. So it's going to think that the sun is out. It's going to think, oh, it's time to stay awake. So trying to avoid screens 30 to 60 minutes before bed is going to significantly help. Then try setting a caffeine curfew. Very, very important. Caffeine will last in your body anywhere from 10 to 12 hours after consumption. So think about that. Whenever time you go to bed, you want to try to avoid your caffeine intake 10 to 12 hours before. I'll be very transparent. I am one that I am not very affected with caffeine when it comes to bed. But that's not the problem. The problem with caffeine isn't necessarily falling asleep, which it is for some, but it's the quality of sleep that you're getting. And caffeine will significantly impact some of the phases and the important phases of sleep, like REM, rapid eye movement, and NREM, non-rapid eye movement, that we can't really control since we are actually sleeping. So that's a good thing to think about when it comes to caffeine, and the very similar thing when it comes to alcohol, right? For a lot of people, alcohol will actually help them go to sleep, but what they don't realize is you are actually not getting the sleep that you need. Alcohol prevents us from getting those deep stages of sleep that are very, very important for this brain repair and recharging. So, if we are consuming caffeine or alcohol, what we are doing is we are messing with the phases of sleep that are actually the most important part of sleep. So, again, more things to think about. All right, and then last but definitely not least, and probably one of the most important as well, is mental and emotional health. I know when I bring this topic up, no matter whether it's in these webinars to my clients, whoever it is, we all seem to get a little tense and tight. And that is totally normal because it's a very tough topic to talk about. But it needs to be up on that list as one of the foundation, one of the pillars. And I will go emphasize this through and through because it's very different than when we're thinking about nutrition and exercise, right? These are things that we can just go and do, right? We do it or we don't do it. When it comes to mental health, that's not the case. Okay? Mental health, emotional health, mental well-being, these are going to have a direct impact on how you think, feel, how you can manage yourself, manage stress, how you emotionally control yourself, how you connect with others. Just like we check our emails, we check our calendars, we check our steps, we check all of these metrics on ourselves, rarely do we ever check ourselves. And for the most part, that's also because as human beings, we like to give and we like to care for others. Whether you have kids, siblings, significant other, we are caring beings. And that is awesome. That's the best part of the human nature. However, you also need to check yourselves, especially if you don't have other people checking in on you. One of my favorite quotes, last quote that I'll bring up for you guys is, you can't pour from an empty cup. you have to take care of yourself first. Whether you're a caregiver or not, you need to be able to check within yourself. All right. And like I mentioned before, the toughest part about mental health, emotional health, and mental well being is that it's not something we fix, right? It's not something that we can just figure out. This is an ongoing aspect of health, something that you are actively trying to nurture. It's very similar to sleep in the way where sleep, you're not going to figure it out. You're not going to fix it. You're not going to have a perfect week of sleep. It's something that you are trying to actively add things into your routine, to your habits, to your day, so that you can improve it. Whether that's a 1% improvement or a 10% improvement, we are just trying to improve it in some way, shape, or form. So don't let the thought of mental well-being and mental health scare you. Let it excite you because all of us can improve with such little changes. All right, so let's talk about some of those changes that you can make. So the tools for mental health. These are ones that, look, again, I recommend, but they are not fitting for everyone. Some of you are going to react very well to these. Some of you may not react as well, and that is totally okay. You want to find the ones that work best for you. So first off, practicing mindfulness or breath work to really get your mind in a state of physical and mental relaxation. Rarely, if ever, do you have at least 1 to 5 minutes where you are just not thinking, you are completely in a relaxed state, and that's because of the go, go, go nature of our world today. So we have to put ourselves in those situations. Second, build and nurture positive relationships. And I want to add to this in person relationships. We're doing a webinar right now and I love it and there's so many positives to being online. But there is nothing more to our human nature than in-person social connection. Really honing in on trying to find times where you can meet up with a friend, family member in person, break away from the phone, and just build that relationship with a great conversation. Third, set goals and pursue personal growth to build confidence and purpose. This is so important. If you want to have a fulfilling, purposeful, and want to build confidence, you need a goal. You need something to shoot for. You need a reason, a why to wake up every single day. And it needs to be important enough that it's going to get you up out of bed. That's going to be important enough so that it's not going to let you hit the snooze. Um, it's one thing that I have done in my young career so far, where I always have something that I'm shooting for because it gets me up, it gives me purpose, and then when I accomplish it, it gives me confidence to get the next one. Then we have reframing hardships as opportunities for growth and resilience. This is very important. And I be careful when I say this, but essentially this comes down to doing hard things. Now, hard things are going to depend on the person, right? Where you're at, what you are doing, but it's something that's challenging to yourself. Because when you do something challenging and you get through it, as hard as it was, you are a better person on the other side. Think about your hardest moments up to this point in life. I'm sure those are also some of your happiest moments because you got through it, you persevered, and now you are more resilient because of that. Next, we want to spend more time in nature. This kind of goes with building positive relationships and being outside for sleep. We just want to connect with nature more. We want to be outside more. We are always inside, whether that's working inside, going to a gym inside, in our house inside. We're always inside. We really want to try to spend as much time outside as we can. And then last but not least, committing 5 to 60 minutes, very wide range of personal time in solitude, time to yourself. This could be so many different ways to do this, reading a book, meditating, doing breath work, doing mindfulness, just sitting there and thinking. 5 to 60 minutes, be selfish. Create that personal time. This is going to allow you to connect with yourself. We say build and nurture positive relationships. But one of the most important relationships you can build is the one with yourself. And this is a really good way to do that. All right, so those are the four pillars of the House of Well-Being. I know it was a crash course of each, and we touched on each of them. Like I said, We did go through each of these in an entire webinar in the previous series, but my goal again was to give you the importance, lay the foundation, understand what goes into a healthy physical well-being, and then also give you action items. So hopefully you jotted some things down, took some pictures that you can implement today. And then we will open up the floor for any and all questions. And this is where you can find all the information about Mono Wellness as well. We have our app that we actually just launched that you can check out. We do online coaching, mobile fitness, corporate wellness, and then we also have a podcast as well. So feel free to throw your questions in the chat, and I will happy to go back to any slides and answer anything.
Wait a couple more minutes for some more questions to come in.
Mhm. Cynthia's still here. I'd love to hear what she had.
Yeah, she was actually asking for the app, so I had sent her
Oh,
the Mental
awesome.
Wellness app. Yeah, and perfect. We have this slide up too, so this will give us everything.
Yep. Yeah, that QR code goes to our master link, I like to call it. Has everything on there for you guys. So that's awesome. Thank you, Cynthia.
Perfect. She just said she downloaded it as well, so that's awesome.
Awesome. So
And
exciting.
perfect. Yep, we got some questions that just came in. Do you think electrolytes are good to put in water for better absorption?
Oh, I love, love, love this question. So as if you're here on the previous webinars, I like to answer all my questions with the same, and it depends. It depends on a few factors. First and foremost, there's two categories to put this in to answer this question. Number one, if you are living this very healthy lifestyle where you're focusing on your nutrition, right? That means limiting processed foods and eating real and clean food, limiting the amount of times that you go out to eat. You're moving your body, you're exercising, you're doing a lot of what you need to be doing to live healthier. Those are the people that I would recommend electrolytes to. And the reason for this is because when we talk about electrolytes, there's many electrolytes, but we're mainly talking about sodium and potassium. Sodium in particular, I know we all have this caution around sodium. And the reason we have this caution around sodium is because the American diet, which is fast foods, processed foods, ultra processed foods, going out to eat, these foods are very, very sodium dense. They have a lot of sodium. And so, for those people that are consuming the average American diet or consuming those foods, I would not recommend an electrolyte supplement, especially if you are also not moving your body. That is because you are probably having excess sodium from the foods that you are eating. On the other hand, going back to the other population, for those people, and this is very common in athletes as well, because they're not eating those foods, their sodium levels are actually going to be lower. They're going to be more deficient in sodium because they're also exercising and sweating. So I would just figure out where you are in your current health state, and then that's how you know what you can do.
Awesome. Another question here. How will you address stress, mental health while managing increasing costs or job uncertainty?
Mm. So I would say this is a really, really good question, and there's so many different answers to this, but when it comes to costs, I just think, especially with some of the ones we went through, let me pull it back up. With some of these practices that we went through, actually, all of these are zero cost tools. And that's very important to note because a lot of the times when we think about improving our mental health and addressing stress, we think about whether that's going to a therapist or whether that's going on a medication, things that do cost money. And oftentimes we skip the things that don't cost anything. And also sometimes the things that could really be a solution to the problem that we're going through. So I would say if you haven't tried the tools that are on screen right now, definitely look into those. Give those a chance. And then if not, If those don't work and you spend a lot of time and really try there, then that's something to think about, and think about the cost as more of an investment into your health that's going to pay you back in the long term, whether that's with a healthier life, a longer life, whatever that may be. When it comes to job uncertainty, I think that just goes into addressing stress and managing your emotions. Um, at least for me, what I love to emphasize is um, if you can find something, and that this is bullet number three, if you can find something in your personal life that gives you a lot of purpose, that's outside of your job, I think that would really be helpful, right? Not from a money side of things, obviously, but from a motivation, a confidence, a purpose, those side of things. So great question, tough one to answer, but I hope I gave you some useful insights.
Awesome. We have another question here. When I'm sick, I hate the taste of water. Is it healthy to completely replace water with Gatorade Zero or Powerade Zero for 1 to 2 days?
I don't like speaking in absolutes, but I would say I don't recommend. Especially since you use the word completely replace. We should never replace water. I totally get that you hate the taste. What I would do instead is, instead of using a Gatorade Zero or a Powerade Zero, these are very highly processed drinks that don't contain as much water as we think, or at least as much absorbable water that we want. I would recommend doing a zero or low calorie sweetener in your water. If you need some form of taste that is much, much better, you can also use some natural sweeteners. I love lemon, lime. You can muddle some fruit in your water as well. But Gatorade, any of these processed drinks are definitely not a replacement for water. We really want to try to consume as much pure water as we can in its original state.
Got it. Another one here. Any comments on alkaline water?
Mm. You know, great question. I don't. I don't know enough I've heard about it and I looked a little bit into the research. Um, my thing is, I try to figure out whether it's something that's legit in the science or if it's something that's just kind of a trend right now, and that's where the research is lacking. Um, but that's where research with nutrition is really difficult, in the sense where to take something like alkaline water, like a very specific item, and to put it through a study is very hard. My biggest thing, especially when it comes to alkaline water, is there's no side effects. So if you feel any benefits from it and you like it, go for it. It shouldn't do you any harm. So I would say, if you're a fan, I'm a fan.
Got it. We have another one here, kind of on the same kind of water to water additive thing. Are water flavor additives really bad for you? Everyone tells me they are bad, but I've been drinking more water with them.
hmm So it depends on what additive you're talking about. So there's a couple of different ones here, right? We have ones that are natural, like I mentioned. So that's going to be your lemons, your limes. Sometimes some companies will do like lemon powder. So they'll just put a natural flavoring into a powder form. Then the next level up to that is going to be 0 calorie sweeteners. So these are going to be artificial flavors. These are going to contain no sugar and no calories, but they are going to be fake ingredients. And then the third level to that is actual sweetener and actual sugar. So what I'll say, and those are in order from best to not the best. Obviously, the ones with sugar we should try to avoid. That's added sugar that we do not want. If we can minimize the amount of added sugar we are consuming, that's going to lead to a lot of healthy returns. When it comes to the artificial sweeteners, look, this is one of those things that is so back and forth in media, in nutrition, in science. You're going to find research that says it's good, that it's bad. I would say, first off, if it gets you off the real sugar, totally okay. Right? If you're having it in moderation, totally okay. I would say if it gets you to drink more water as well, totally okay. You just eventually, I do recommend trying to get most of your water through pure water, while just adding some of those kind of sweet drinks in there throughout the day when you need.
Got it. With time as a factor, do you find meal prepping on Sundays helps with whole foods and protein?
Love that. Yes, especially with time as a factor. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on Sunday. I'll kind of give you guys an idea of how I meal prep. But the reason being is because I love quotes. You guys are probably realizing this. One of my favorite quotes is by Benjamin Franklin. It's failing to prepare is preparing to fail, right? And that goes exactly with what you're saying. So you can absolutely do the Sunday meal prep where you're putting everything together for the week. You have foods for Monday through Friday. I've done that in the past. It's worked, but I don't love it. I just don't love having the meals later in the week. What I actually have found that's worked really well for me is when I'm making dinner or making a meal, I just do two of them. And then that way for the next meal or a meal later, I'll have that second course. So that way I'll just split the same exact thing that I'm cooking. It's no added work, no added time, but then I'm basically meal prepping at the same time as well. So anytime I cook, I double up, but that's coming from someone who I cook dinner every single night because it's important to me. It allows me to stay on my goals, so it's easy for me to meal prep my lunch or my breakfast because I can just do it that night or with that dinner. That's what's worked for me. I would say find what works for you, whether that's that Sunday prep or finding 2 days if it's like a Sunday and a Wednesday, whatever that may be. But I absolutely agree with you. When it comes to a time constraint, meal prepping is of the utmost importance.
Gotcha. And the next question we have here kind of touches on actually our next week or in 2 weeks webinar, physical rehabilitation. But this one says, I had I had knee surgery and wrist surgery. I am 51 years old female and I need to get mobile again. What can I do?
Hmm. Yes, so we will definitely be touching on this next week, but I do want to give you an answer. And it may not be the exact answer that you would love to hear, but it is what really helps. And that is looking at all of these aspects that we mentioned as a way to help you get mobile again. Your nutrition. Why your nutrition? Because it's going to reduce your inflammation, which is going to help your joints and your muscles and your bones be able to move through its full range of motion. We talked about exercise. We talked about movement and being mobile. By keeping our body moving, we're not letting it get stale. We are not letting it get stiff and tight. So moving is going to keep your joints loose. I mentioned when we're talking about moving, stretching and mobility, right? Again, keeping your bones limber and your muscles stretched out. Then we were even talking about sleep. When it comes to physical recovery, sleep is going to be of the utmost importance. Okay, and then for some of the more specific things that we might touch on next week, this is going to be all about okay, what specific exercises can you do for whatever specific injury that you're working through, right? Whether that is physical therapy and some of those things. We can get into supplementation. Um, I just kind of wanted to go through that to answer your question and really get you to understand that it's just not one answer to this. And this goes with any injury or any chronic condition. There's never just one answer. You have to look at health as a whole, your overall physical well-being. And there's a great segue to kind of really wrap it up. Your overall well-being includes all of these aspects. We can't just look at it as one specific thing for whatever you are dealing with. We have to incorporate all of them. So if you're doing really well with your nutrition, your movement, your exercise, your sleep, all of those things, then that would be a further discussion of okay, what specifics can we do to really help you? But if not, I would definitely focus on those ones because they will significantly help.
Awesome. Perfect. We'll give it another call for any other questions that anybody wants to ask. And then we will wrap this up. But if anybody has any other questions, please throw them in there and we're more happy to address. All right, actually looks like that is everything today. So I just want to thank you, Anthony, for sharing all that great information. And thank you all for joining tonight. And we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar, Physical Rehabilitation for Any Age on April 29th at 6 p.m. Have a great rest of your night, everyone.
Have a good one. Thank you guys.